Hey everyone, for this week's video we have a flanker sortie on the Conquest server. This server is still relatively new, but it's making some nice changes like removing all Fox-2 missiles, so it's really leaning in to its charm of allowing planes like the flanker to be really relevant because we're just really only using Fox-1s and Fox-2s. If this is your first time here, this channel focuses on multiplayer sim gameplay, so if you're into that, please subscribe. I haven't flown the flanker in any serious way in over 6 months, so this was really me shaking off my rust. Thought it would be helpful for people to hear me think out loud as I reviewed my own sortie. I was the only red player on the server at this point, so I am really just hunting around, and we'll see how this plays out. I hope you enjoy. We start this sortie off with two contacts that are headed hot toward me. They're coming at two different angles, so they're probably not on comms with each other. And I pick up the first one using BVR mode. Now, we're going to see why the Fox-1 and Fox-2 fights are really interesting, especially in this era. Because I like to describe it as a kind of like a jousting match when you see the knights with their lances. It's kind of the same thing, but you don't always immediately merge. It's kind of like you're charging toward each other, then you glance away, turn away, and then come back at each other, and that's what's going to happen here. I have him locked. I only have R27Rs, R27Ts, and R73s, and he only has Fox-1s and Fox-2s. And the key thing about this fight, because pretty much we're coming at this in a very equal way, with almost equal speed, equal altitude, is about shooting a missile, getting them cold, and then turning back in quicker than they can. And you're going to see that I'm about to fire at the minimum range, which is, we've just reached it. I let the missile go, and he has also launched and he goes defensive, and you can see him deploying countermeasures. And that's exactly what I do too. And I defeat the missile and I turn back in immediately. Now if you look at the bottom right, you're going to see the data link, and you're going to see that he's actually still turning away and now turning back in. And for that reason, I'm going to switch to an R27T and fire a heater at him, which is not going to give him warning. I still have him locked, he does not have me locked, so I have a huge advantage here. And I get into the no escape zone and I fire. And pretty much he's not going to get. I don't know if he knew that I fired. He probably didn't. Maybe he saw it visually, but he eats a missile. But we knew that there were two contacts, and I'm turning toward the other one on my data link and trying to hope that my BVR mode can pick him up or my radar can pick him up. And it doesn't happen, so I have to immediately go defensive. Now this is a really tough spot to be in because he has me locked. He has not turned cold. And he's just going to press me. I see the smoke up there, the contrail. So this is all about beating this missile and turning back in and trying to pick him up quickly. I beat the missile and he's dropped lock, so I turn back in. This would be a good opportunity to go into scan mode. Using this head tracking was a mistake because I don't really know where he is. I should have used vertical scan mode here to try to scan a wider area. He's fired an IR missile, I see it. I dump flares, I beat it, and I see that he's also dumped flares. He probably expected me to fire one as I was turning in. And I think what's happened here is because he dove, he probably picked up so much speed he can't get his nose up, and as I climbed up, I flipped the fun mode button on the flanker, and I was able to get nose on enough to launch an R73, which is an off-bore IR missile. So good start to the sortie. 2 consecutive fights. One of them at an extremely disadvantage. From a starting position where I was at an extreme disadvantage, but I was able to pull it out, which is great. And now we're going to go on patrol. And from here, I'm using the EWR picture to see what's going on, making sure nothing else is coming. And we're going to start crossing into enemy territory where we have less coverage. And I'm going to skip ahead because basically I'm looking for more targets, and I think I'm coming up on a Harrier at this point. And we actually find out that it's a Huey. So as I come up on this, let me make one last note on the last fight. That last missile, that IR missile that Hornet fired was a little bit spicy, and that only I was only able to dodge it because I kept my head out of the cockpit and actually looking up, and I was able to flare it. So just keep in mind that even though you have, when you find these more advanced planes, you still got to use your eyes. So, like I said, I thought this was a Harrier. It's actually a Huey, and now at this point I've realized this, and I'm going to try cannons. I really like the gun sight on the Su-27, so anytime I get a chance to practice, I do. And I'm also coming at an angle where I hope this Huey can't see me. And little do I know right now that killing that Huey is going to have a huge effect on the sortie. Won't spoil it for now, but just remember this moment. So now that I've done this, I see on my data link that there's 2 contacts that are high and fast, and I try to stay low, try to push out to them. And again, I think I'm the only red human player at this point on the server, so I know that they're probably going to be looking for me. And the EWR picture on the top right shows that these are AI, and I don't particularly like fighting AI. I try to avoid it because to me it seems like a waste of a missile. So I keep pressing into their territory to see if I can find a player out there. And I think I do see one on data link, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going. So skipping ahead. I know there's a contact that's high and fast, up to my 11. And instead of going directly at him, I'm actually trying to come in to wrap in behind him because he's pretty fast and pretty high compared to me. So I want to come in behind him so he doesn't see, and I'm able to see contrail. And you can see that I'm in the electro-optical mode, or using the IR sensor. So he doesn't know that I have him locked right now, which is great. And he's not in range yet. He's going to be he's already faster than me, and I'm climbing up to him, and I'm going to be bleeding speed climbing up to him. So all I need to do here is just be patient and hope that he doesn't use an EWR picture or take his head out of his cockpit and look behind him, because then he'll start seeing me, especially when I enter the con. Now these R27T missiles are precious because they have pretty good range, so I try not to use them on like this is not an ideal scenario to use it. I mean, I'll probably get the kill with it, but I only have 1 more of these, so I'd like to hold on to it. I have 3 more R73s, so that's the thinking here of why I'm holding on. Now I'm in a really good control position on him. At this point, I'm thinking of using the R27T. Then I switch to R73, and I see that I am in the no escape zone, and I let it go. And again, this is an IR missile. He's going to have no idea this is coming at him unless he looks behind him. And we get a clean splash. So this was only really possible because I was patient and I wrapped in behind him. And I call a picture and I see there's F4s and an F5, or 2 F4s, 2 F5s, which are AI. At this point in the sortie, I knew my fuel was getting low, so I was thinking of RTBing, and now that I've killed several and still being the only red player on the server, I got the feeling that they're going to be coming after me soon, so pretty deep in their territory, so I kind of need to split, so I'm going to be turning into these AI planes soon. And skipping ahead where I've dropped altitude and have closed in on these AI planes. So I see that I have almost twice the speed as them. I have no clue what weapons the AI have on the server. and I actually particularly hate fighting AI in DCS or air-to-air. Bombers are fine, but I don't like usually flying fighters, so they do some tricky stuff sometimes. So I'm trying to keep my speed up, even though I'm kind of low on fuel, and I want to make sure I sling this out as far as possible. As well, on my data link, I see something else coming toward me, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Now, one thing that I think that I'm very good at, but I think it gets me killed all the time, is I'm going to call it resource management, or maybe sometimes you might hear me reference, or I say I'm thinking too many steps far in advance. So that last kill that I got, I used an R73, and the R27T might have been the safer option just to get it done. And one could argue that shooting the longer range missile and just getting out of their territory quicker would have been the move. Here I'm fighting two different F4s, and I don't want to shoot a Fox-1 missile and have to keep my nose on and have the other one fire at me. So because I saved the R27T, I could have used it here and turned away if the other one fired on me, but he didn't. So I decided to use the Fox-1 missile instead. But at least I gave myself an option. Sometimes it gets me killed, sometimes I try to next level it too much, I try to plan too far in advance. But other times it works out where having extra resources later is helpful. And we're going to see how great the gun sight is on the Su-27. Literally just point and click, using very little rounds to kill AI. So now I'm feeling good. I see another contact coming toward me, and I'm thinking I'm gonna kill this last one and then really bug out an RTB. Now, one thing I'm doing a bad job of is not really looking at the RWR in a while, and I see that there's something paining me from my 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock area. And the data link coverage over here in this area is kind of spotty, so I might not be seeing everything. So I should actually be putting more emphasis on the RWR, because that contact went from my 11 now to my 9, and I'm not really looking out there too much, which is a huge mistake. Very fixated on the thing in front of me, wherever it is. It's quite large. It might be a tanker or a bomber. And I get locked, so that contact went from my 11 to my 9, now it's behind me. I have no idea what it is. Oh. So that Huey got their revenge and lifted an F5, which I thought was an AI, using the RWR picture. So Flanker dies to an F5, which is pretty funny, but all in all a good sortie. Made a huge mistake by not paying attention to the RWR, but it was a fun sortie, and I've been having fun on the server. It's kind of neat to use these planes. So hope you guys found this interesting. Hopefully you found it helpful also. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I hope you guys have a really good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.